Like a spear of frozen force, the polar bear closes in, leaving its prey short of breath. Each powerful bound turns ice and snow into an arena. A single delayed moment carries a cost. When another hunter appears to contest the claim, it does not retreat but increases the pressure, forcing the rival to withdraw at once. The question remains, who has the nerve to step into that range and still find a way back? The polar bear holds the highest hunting tier of the sea ice system. An adult male can weigh nearly 1,600 pounds and measure close to 10 feet in length. Sea ice serves as the pathway to opportunity in cold that can drop below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Wide paws, a thick fat layer, and white insulating fur allow long travel, concealment, and energy conservation. And when the ice shifts its rhythm, that position becomes unstable, pulling the entire food chain with it. With each measured breath, life is counted in the smallest gaps. Beneath ice that can reach up to 6 feet thick lie the seal's narrow breathing holes, a fragile thread linking the deep ocean to the open air. Each day, seals must gnaw and scrape without pause so that this doorway does not seal shut. And that same doorway holds a significant reward. An individual weighing about 150 pounds, with an energy-rich fat layer sufficient to sustain a polar bear for nearly 10 days through the harsh season. This time, a mother polar bear leaves her snow den in early spring, traveling with 2 cubs after months hidden within the frozen landscape. Her body still depleted from winter. She does not rush. The first lesson of the ice is knowing when to remain still. With a sense of smell capable of tracing signs from distances of up to 20 miles, the mother moves like a compass needle, keeping herself downwind to avoid alerting her target. When the water at a breathing hole quivers, she holds motionless for hours, reading each signal like a cold calculation. The moment a seal surfaces to draw air lasts only a few seconds. The forward burst unfolds in an instant, fast, controlled, precise, blocking the descent at its timing point. With success rates often below 15%, there is no margin for mistimed action. The richest fat is reserved by the mother for her 2 cubs, set aside as a reserve to keep them warm and growing. But as these meeting points around breathing holes become fewer, it signals that the Arctic is entering a challenge it has never faced before. Along shallow estuaries and small bays, a rare energy reserve sometimes appears: the beluga whale. An adult can weigh around 3,000 pounds and reach nearly 15 feet in length. But belugas belong to the water, while bears belong to the ice. And that divide turns every approach into an extremely narrow window. On a rocky shoreline, two young male bears watch pale shapes gliding close to shore. The first is impatient. It builds momentum and charges as a beluga moves in. But a single change in direction lets the animal slip just out of reach. It tries to cut the angle, water spraying as its weight slows the motion. Then the surface smooths again, leaving only a lone white figure standing on the rocks. The second bear is more seasoned. It chooses the right outcrop, lowers its center of gravity, remains still, and reads the tide. As rising water pushes a beluga into shallower ground, the current masks movement, and the moment arrives. The beluga hesitates for a fraction of a second. The bear slides a few feet, channels its weight through forelimbs carrying hundreds of pounds, and takes the chance, quick, controlled, without excess effort. In the Arctic, the one that endures is not the fastest to charge, but the one that waits for the right rhythm of the water. And adult walruses are no easy opponents in the Arctic. Mature males can weigh close to 3,700 pounds, with tusks reaching up to 3 feet in length. On rocky shores, they press together into a defensive ring that even a polar bear must weigh carefully, as the energy cost can sometimes outweigh the reward. A lone bear cannot break this wall of tusks through strength alone. It moves along the edge of the herd, slowly changing angles to read alertness and wait for an opening. The focus is always on the outer line, young or weaker individuals more likely to be pulled out of position as the group shifts. A few brief advances followed by withdrawal push the herd toward the water's edge, the formation loosening, with gaps appearing only for an instant. One moment of lost coordination is enough for the balance to tip. The bear seizes its opportunity, secures its share, and then withdraws from the confusion, heading toward safer ice. As the fortress closes again, the walrus herd gradually settles, and the next opportunity may come at a breathing hole, on drifting ice, or along the shallow shoreline. The male caribou stands as a symbol of endurance in the polar regions, with a solid build and antlers, like a crown, used both to compete for status and for self-defense. An adult can exceed 30 miles per hour across hardened snow, but when the ice fractures, that advantage thins. A male separated from the herd is forced to swim across a gap spanning several dozen yards, through water that cuts with intense cold. The polar bear recognizes the opening immediately, Using broad forelegs like paddles, it keeps a steady rhythm and closes in with almost no surface disturbance. The distance narrows bit by bit. Each time the caribou lifts its head to breathe, its swimming cadence slips slightly. The decisive moment arrives swiftly, and the encounter concludes within seconds. Once ashore, the bear draws a reward weighing hundreds of pounds away from the water's edge, securing added energy for the long summer ahead. And the risk is not limited to adults alone. Young caribou find it even harder to conceal their tracks. A single step away from the edge of the herd is enough for the polar bear to lock onto a target and close in without hesitation. At the far north, threats do not come only from hunger or bitter winds, but at times from others of the same kind. Conflict can ignite around life-sustaining assets, a rare piece of food, or a favorable stretch of ice when a mother is traveling with cubs. Confrontations rarely begin with a direct rush. They open with displays of presence. An adult male lifts the front half of its body, shoulders set like a shield. The two circle in arcs, low rumbles carrying across the ice. If neither yields, they press and test each other in short shoves on the slick surface, probing strength and balance. A single missed beat is enough for the weaker one to withdraw, because in the Arctic, wasted energy can mean a lost season. When food is scarce, males may move close to areas with cubs, forcing a mother to stand firm, holding boundaries through resolve alone. At times, that maternal resolve is what causes the larger individual to hesitate and step back. Compared to an adult seal, seabird eggs provide only modest calories. Yet through the summer months, each small clutch can gradually fill an energy gap. Amid the chaotic calls of seabirds, polar bears move quietly, revealing another side of a top predator, accepting smaller rewards, repeated many times, to hold on through another season on bare rock instead of ice and snow. By late summer, along river mouths flowing into the sea, salmon begin their upstream run. Instinct draws bears back to the water's edge, choosing shallow stretches just a few feet deep where channels narrow and fish must expose themselves as they accelerate. The bear stands steady, looking through the surface, waiting for the precise moment a fish passes. A single flash in an instant is enough to secure a fish weighing a few pounds, helping offset the energy lost to melting ice. In the cold current, patience shows that polar bears consistently choose the right place and the right time to make the most of every opportunity in a short season. No roaring or display is needed, just a decisive move, and the order around it is shaken. The elephant closes in with restrained resolve, each motion carrying the weight of the wild's unspoken law. When territory is violated, ancient memory rises, turning calm into pressure that cannot be avoided. This is not a moment of sudden anger, but a survival instinct sharpened through countless encounters. And in that instant, the creature once seen as gentle forces the world to remember the final boundary it holds. Elephants are the largest land animals still in existence, with fully grown individuals standing nearly 11 feet tall at the shoulder. A brain weighing about 11 pounds allows them to remember routes, water sources, and potential threats across many years. Living within tightly bonded herd structures, calves remain at the center, while adult elephants become living boundaries. The strength of elephants lies not only in muscle, but in their ability to control space and shape the natural order. The rhinoceros is often described as a walking block of steel. Thick skin, a body that can exceed 5,000 pounds, and a sharp keratin horn nearly 4 feet long, enough to make most predators hesitate. Yet beside an elephant, that advantage quickly shrinks. When water sources or feeding grounds are contested, the encounter turns into a display of dominance. A male elephant, especially during must, does not rely on warnings alone. It advances with purpose, sending vibrations through the ground beneath the rhinoceros. The rhino lowers its head and raises its horn to maintain distance, but the elephant needs no pointed weapon. Height and sheer mass turn every step forward into pressure. Before withdrawing, it may even toss a tree branch toward its rival, a final punctuation to a silent warning. At times, a shallow pool becomes the stage. The elephant uses its solid forehead and powerful trunk to press the rhino's head downward, limiting the horn's effectiveness. It shifts its weight and applies force along the side or back, a heavy push that unsettles the massive frame. As the balance tips, the rhinoceros usually chooses to retreat. In most standoffs, the advantage favors the elephant. When the elephant holds its ground, control of space changes hands. The rhino yields, steps back toward the muddy edge, and fades into the thorny brush. In arid lands, these clashes are not about victory alone, but about organizing access to vital resources. Elephants maintain space for their young. Rhinoceroses preserve the dignity of solitary survival. Whoever controls the space sets the rhythm of the savannah. On the savannah, lions are often called the kings of the plains, an adult male weighing around 420 pounds. They succeed through ambush, bursts of speed, and coordinated group strength. But that crown is never absolute. Elephants are the true giants, intelligent, tightly bonded, and powerful enough to make even a lion's confidence hesitate. The encounter begins at a waterhole that appears calm. A male elephant weighing up to 13,000 pounds approaches to drink, while lionesses hold their breath, concealed nearby. When one lioness realizes the massive shadow has drawn close, every escape route becomes uncertain. The elephant's sense of smell catches the unfamiliar presence. In a single heartbeat, the stillness breaks. A forceful spray of water strikes forward, a cold warning. Do not move closer. From that moment, tension is no longer accidental. If lions linger near resting areas or appear close to a kill, a defensive response is immediate. The elephant sounds a deep call and advances at speeds reaching nearly 25 miles per hour, turning distance into pressure and forcing the predators to withdraw. This is not retaliation. It is the setting of boundaries, where crossing the line carries consequences. Yet the center of every surge of force is always the young. When a calf falls behind or becomes separated, the mother becomes a moving fortress, positioning the calf between her legs and turning her body to shield every angle. If lions approach too closely, a powerful swing of the trunk or a driving push can turn a single mistake into disaster. Across generations, these defensive behaviors are learned and passed on, shaping elephant herds into living strongholds where calm presence exists alongside strength, ready to rise whenever it is needed. On the savannah, hyenas are opportunistic hunters, rarely operating alone. Each individual weighs around 190 pounds, following scent, tracks, and subtle signs left on the ground to locate food, especially after prolonged dry seasons when all sources of survival become scarce. In these spaces, elephants move by more than instinct alone. To them, the plains form a map of memory, marked by migration routes stretching dozens of miles, waterholes that once ran dry, and places where members of their kind were lost. When hyenas appear near these familiar areas, the herd's response is not random, but the result of experience accumulated and passed down through generations, especially when calves, often weighing only a few hundred pounds, remain close to their mothers. An encounter unfolds on an open stretch of grassland. The hyena group spreads out, focusing its attention on a newborn calf. Immediately, the adult elephants issue deep calls and tighten their formation, creating a solid protective ring. Heavy footfalls and short backward kicks are enough to push approaching animals beyond a safe distance. Faced with this disciplined formation and learned defensive response, the hyenas gradually withdraw. After the confrontation, the elephants do not pursue. Yet whenever hyenas gather near feeding areas, elephants often move in deliberately, applying pressure through sound and presence alone. For elephants, memory is not only for remembering, it teaches the herd how to protect its future. At the edge of the marsh, the Nile crocodile exists like an ancient trap of Africa. Its body blends into the water, with only its eyes and nostrils breaking the surface to track nearby movement. Its jaws can close with a force of up to 3,700 pounds per square inch, striking in an instant, enough to turn a brief lapse in attention into a moment of survival. For elephants, water is both refuge and risk. As one lowers its head to drink, a single lapse is enough. The surface stirs slightly, and a dark shape glides near the bank. The crocodile rises toward the soft trunk, forcing the elephant to jerk its head back sharply, churning mud and sending vibrations through the water to disrupt the ambush. Even adult elephants are not entirely safe when crossing rivers. Water reduces the advantage of weight. Slick mud, limited visibility, and narrow escape routes create conditions where elephants are most vulnerable, despite their size. And when the surface grows unnaturally still, instinct warns the herd that silence itself can be the most suspicious signal of all. Like rhinoceroses, elephants, and African buffalo often encounter one another around precious water sources. Buffalo are known for their toughness, maintaining constant vigilance behind their powerful curved horns. But when facing elephants, the balance quickly shifts toward size and mass. An adult male elephant can outweigh several buffalo combined. As tension rises, that fragile order can change in an instant. When it becomes necessary to move buffalo away from a contested shoreline, elephants advance deliberately. In rare moments when intensity crosses a threshold, the leverage of the tusks, combined with thousands of pounds of body weight, can quickly bring the encounter to an end. The massive frame continues to apply pressure, establishing control of space and leaving a clear message for the remaining animals. Under this advantage, buffalo are compelled to step back, not due to a lack of strength, but from an understanding that prolonging the encounter only increases risk. Whenever elephant herds appear, buffalo often yield, moving away from the water's edge and even giving up prime grazing areas. Even when encountering a younger elephant, caution remains evident, as avoidance is consistently the safer option. In nature, memory does not belong to elephants alone. It is also reflected in the behavior of buffalo. Survival is sometimes found not in moving forward, but in knowing when to step back at the right moment in order to continue on. As the ice grows thinner, the polar bear continues to dominate the frozen world. Each step is a calculation between energy and opportunity, between instinct and survival intelligence. To continue following the White Realm, pressing like supports this journey, and selecting subscribe ensures the next chapter is not missed. At the far north, the greatest strength is knowing how to adapt at the right moment.